So, ladies and gentlemen, we could do 10,000 podcasts on this beautiful song, but if you're a Beatles fan, we all know it, we all sing along, and of course, Ringo with the great vocal. Now, Yellow Submarine, not the movie but the song, is by the Beatles from the '66 album Revolver. It was also issued on a double A-side single paired with Eleanor Rigby. Written as a children's song by Paul McCartney and John Lennon, it was drummers Ringo Starr's vocal spot on the album. The single went to number one on charts in the UK and several other European countries, and in Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. It won an Ivor Novello Award for the highest certified sales of any single written by a British songwriter and issued in UK in '66. In US, the song did not reach number one, but reached number two in the Billboard charts. Now, the Beatles recorded Yellow Submarine during a period characterized by experimentation in a recording studio. After taping the basic track and vocals in late May '66, they held a session to overdub nautical sound effects, party ambiance, and chorus singing, recalling producer George Martin's previous work with members of the Goons. As a novelty song coupled with Eleanor Rigby, a track devoid of any rock instrumentation, the single marked a radical departure for the group. The song inspired the '68 animated film Yellow Submarine and appeared as the opening track on the accompanying soundtrack album. Now it goes under children's music, pop, psychedelia, and music hall at 2:38. Back with Paperback Writer, the previous single, and Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. Now, in the U.S., the release of the Yellow Submarine coincided with the controversy surrounding Lennon's more popular than Jesus remarks, which led some radio stations to oppose a ban on the Beatles' music and the band's public opposition to the Vietnam War. The song received several social and political interpretations. It was adopted as an anti-authority statement by the counterculture during Vietnam War demonstrations. It was also appropriated in strike action and other forms of protests. Some listeners view the song as a code for drugs, particularly the barbiturate Nembutal, which was sold in yellow capsules, or as a symbol for escapism. Yellow Submarine has continued to be the children's favorite and has frequently been performed by Starr on his tours with the All-Star Band. Now, the McCartney and Lennon wrote of it, and Lennon specifically said, both of us wrote the song. Paul wrote the catchy chorus. I helped with the blunderous bit. In 1980, Lennon talked further about the song. Yellow Submarine is primarily Paul's baby. Donovan helped with the lyrics. I helped with the lyrics too. We virtually made the track come alive in the studio, and based on Paul's inspiration, Paul's idea, Paul's title, written for Ringo. In his 97 authorized biography, many years from now, McCartney recalled coming up with the initial idea while lying in bed, adding that was pretty much my song as I recall. I think John helped out, but the chorus, melody, verses were mine. Now, John did a home demo as an acoustic ballad evoking Plastic Ono Band, and he says the solo recording debunks the widely accepted view that Submarine was merely a McCartney children's song dashed out for Starr, and that it conveys a deeper emotional resonance than was previously apparent. Now, author Steve Turner writes that he needs to focus on childhood themes. Yellow Submarine fitted with the contemporaneous psychedelic aesthetic, and that this outlook was reflected in George Harrison's comments on Maureen Cleave in his How a Beatle Lives interview, when he spoke of an individual's purity at birth and gradual corruption by society. And many years from now, McCartney says he started making a story, sort of an ancient mariner, telling the young kids where he'd lived, and that the storyline became gradually more obscure. But the positivity is in there. Now, the Beatles began recording Submarine during the 8th week of the sessions for Revolver. The project was characterized by the group's increased experimentation in the studio, reflecting the division between the recording output and the music they made as live performers. The first session for the song took part on May 26, '66, but without producer George Martin, who was not well. Author Ian MacDonald views Bob Dylan's contemporaneous hit single Rainy Day Woman in 112 and 35 as a possible inspiration for the Beatles. Now, there was different mixes of the song and also the sound effects overdubs that were heavily edited for the release recording. Now, there was an intro to the song. The song originally opened with a 15-second section containing narration by Starr and dialogue by Harrison. McCartney and Lennon, supported by the sound of marching feet, created by blocks of coal being shaken inside the box. Written by Lennon, the narrative focused on people marching from Land's End to John O'Groats, from Stepney to Utrecht, and sharing the vision of a yellow submarine. Despite the time it taken developing and recording this intro, the band chose to discard the idea, and the section was cut from the track on June 3rd. Now, Everett comments that the recording of Yellow Submarine took twice as much studio time as the band's eventual debut album, Please Please Me. Now, this was a double single, of course, with Eleanor Rigby. Now, the Yellow Submarine ad for it didn't really mimic what was happening later on. Now, this was in one of the first designated Beatles singles since '63 not to top the Billboard Hot 100. A result he attributes to Capitol's caution in initially overlooking Eleanor Rigby. During the U.S. tour, Beatles press officer Tony Barrow asked Leroy Aarons of the Washington Post to remove mention of the band's latest single slipping on the charts when Aarons presented his article for their approval. Now, the single sold 1.2 million copies in 4 weeks, was pretty good, and it earned the Beatles their 21st U.S. gold record, a total he had achieved in just 2.5 years. And of course, the critical reception, Ray Davies didn't like it. The King said it was a load of rubbish and a bad choice for a single. And in Crawdaddy, Paul Williams was also highly critical, saying the song was as poor as Sergeant Barry Sadler's pro-military novelty single Battle of the Green Berets. But Roy Carr and Tony Tyler, the Beatles and Illustrated Record, said Yellow Submarine was acclaimed as the best kiddie tune since Mel Blanc's I Taught a Ta Putty Tat. Ringo yodeling it while John clanged bells and made absurd U-boat noises. It seems ridiculous now. It seemed ridiculous then, but it sold well. I really like the song because it's all different good things going together, what the Beatles would do. Now, this is a weird thing because the backing people in this is unbelievable. You're going to love this. Ringo Starr leading backing vocals, drums, and shouting. John Lennon acoustic guitar, backing vocals, sound effects, bubbles, shouting. Paul McCartney bass, backing vocals, shouting. George Harrison tambourine, backing vocals, and sound effects to waves. On the supporting it, longtime Beatles friend Neil Aspinall on backing vocals. Alf Bicknell, sound effects, rattling chains, backing vocals. Patty Boyd, laughter, backing vocals, Mrs. George Harrison. The roadie Mal Evans, bass drum, backing vocals. Of all people, Marianne Faithfull on backing vocals. Brian Jones, the Rolling Stones, on sound effects, clinking glasses, Orcanina and backing vocals. George Martin on backing vocals. Jeff Emmerich on tape loop, marching band and backing vocals. And John Skinner and Terry Condon, sound effects, chains, and a bathtub. That's a good pop band. So, on the charts, 66 to 67, number 1 in Australia, number 1 in Austria, number 1 in Belgium, number 1 in Canada, number 4 in Denmark, 6 in Finland, number 1 in Ireland, 3 in Italy, Netherlands to 2 charts, number 1, New Zealand number 1, Norway number 1, Rhodesia number 2, Spain number 3, Sweden number 1, the Swedish top TOPP chart number 1, UK number 1, Billboard number 2, Cashbox number 1, and West Germany number 1. And so in the charts, year end, UK number 3, Billboard 96, Cashbox 83. Certifications, Norway 25,000 copies, United Kingdom 400,000, United States 1 million. Now the re-enter of the charts in 86 went to 63, Belgium 2012 went to number 16, and 2018 55 UK. Now, referring to the demo of Yellow Submarine, producer Gil Martin likens Yellow Submarine to a Woody Guthrie song, while Sheffield calls it a heart-wrenching childhood memory, Rob Sheffield, halfway between Julia and Strawberry Fields Forever. Lennon's lyrics include the lines, "In the place where I was born, no one cared, no one cared. And the name that I was born, no one cared, no one cared." Now, among other examples of the song's adoption by radical groups, students at the London School of Economics boasted, "We all live in a red LSE, striking workers in the UK complained. We all live on bread and margarine," and Sing Out magazine, in its anti-Vietnam War adaptation of the lyrics, rewrote the courses as, "We're all dropping jellied gasoline." pretty freaky deaky. Now, Jesus Christ. And in the worst interpretation, in late 68, Charles Manson renamed his headquarters at Canoga Park in California Yellow Submarine after the song. So it wasn't just Helter Skelter. So, ladies and gentlemen, I love Yellow Submarine. I bought a Hot Wheels of it a couple of years ago. I love the motif. I love the song. It brings back a time in the 1970s and 80s where everybody was not say loving each other, but getting caught. Yellow Submarine, I think it's a top 10 Beatles song for sure. And without Yellow Submarine, we wouldn't have had Octopus's Garden. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like the Beatles on our Behind the Tracks podcast, let us know what a like, comment, subscribe, or share.